I met Orvin in 1996 when he came from New York City to Utica, New York, not knowing that he was coming to a Christian program. He wasn't very happy about it either. But God touched his life in a wonderful way, and you're going to hear a wonderful testimony. And Orvin very soon will complete his doctorate degree in theology, and he'll be the first graduate ever from the program that I know of to do that. And so we are very proud of Orvin. He used to call me when he was in college and ask me a few theological questions, until one day he had breakfast with John MacArthur, and then he gave me the left hand of fellowship. I'm only teasing, but he calls John now. But Orvin, come on up. Where are you? There you are, right in front of me. Okay, let's give him a warm hand.
Wow, I am absolutely humbled to be here this evening. My wife and I and our kids, we were driving through Utica, and it's just brought back these feelings, emotions. I owe a lot of who I am today to this city, especially the Rescue Mission. I was here 19 years ago, and it just seems like an eternity, because I, like Ernie, I was a lot skinnier, had more hair, and I'll tell you, I just am so grateful for what's going on here. Like Brother Rick mentioned, I'm from New York City, and growing up in Brooklyn, New York, it was really easy for me to start hanging out with the wrong crowd. My mom and dad divorced when I was young, and I remember I was 13 years old, and it was my birthday. My mother had purchased some football equipment for me so that I can go and play football. And we got into this super argument. It was really me being disrespectful. And she said, okay, you're going to be that way. I'm going to take all your stuff and I'm going to return it to the store. Well, she did. And I said, I'm going to get even with you. And so I went to the corner and I spoke to this fellow that I knew. And I said, hey, I know you sell drugs. Let me try some. And that was heroin. That was the first day, 13 years old, and my life was trashed. And you know, like the story, everyone that goes through the rescue mission, you wind up homeless, but you don't have the problem. Everybody else has the problem. You're not the problem. I remember listening to people share, oh, Orvin, you're going to waste your life, you're going to die. And I kept thinking, no, that's not me. I'm not going to be that type of person. I'm going to be able to control my drug addiction and alcoholism. And before you know it, my mom, just real tired of who I've become, she got rid of me. She packed all my stuff, put them out in the street, and I remember thinking to myself, where do I go now? Well, I had some friends and stayed with them for a little while, 1 week with this person, another week with another one, but they get tired of that. As long as you have money, you have friends. And you don't have any money and you're homeless, guess what? You don't have any friends either. And I remember thinking, where do I go from here? So I started living in parks and streets, finally living across the street from the Brooklyn courthouse, and got my PhD there. I was poor, hungry, and dirty. We've all heard that. I remember one night just really asking myself, why am I going through all this? What's the use? What's going on, Orvin? Dirty, full of body lice. I joke around with my wife. I wonder if she would have dated me back in those days. But I remember one evening I was tired of the life that I lived, and it was raining. I remember going up on the roof and thinking, this is not the life I want. I don't want to live like this anymore. I had no idea that God was real, that Jesus Christ had paid for my sin. I just wanted to call it quits. So I remember looking over the roof. I could see across the street my mother and my sisters. They're sitting on the bed in my mother's room, and I can see them watching television while it's pouring. And I'm just thinking, you know what? No one even knows that I'm here. Just going to kill myself. And I remember walking to the edge, and I was getting ready to jump, and I heard a voice. I mean, not an audible voice, but it was, I believe God was speaking to me and said, you know, if you jump, you're going to be more miserable than you are now. And so I went downstairs and I spoke to this fellow. I said, look, I want to get out of the streets. I want to stay in a hotel. I want something. I want to change my life. So he gave me some drugs to sell. I said, okay, well, I'm going to sell this, and I'm going to take the money that I make, and I'm going to go and get a hotel room, and I'm going to get my life in order. Well, where I lived, there were only Puerto Ricans and blacks. If you saw a white person, he was a police officer. He was an undercover. And so this guy comes up to me. Guess what? He's white. I knew he was an undercover cop, but I still did the stupid thing, and that was I sold to him. About 30 seconds later, the doors get broken into, and I knew this was it. I get arrested, they send me out, spent some time in the tombs, and they sent me to Rikers Island, and I remember even there thinking, you know, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I remember after 18 months, the judge comes to me, and he says, look, you still have your whole life ahead of you. But in order for you to get out of your rut, you're going to have to get reprogrammed. So I go to Project SCORE in Liberty, New York, and I spent 90 days there. And in order for me to complete, I needed to follow through with their aftercare program. And that was sending me to the rescue mission. And really, I just wanted to get out of Project SCORE, go to the rescue mission, say that I was there, and then go back to New York City. I wanted to go back to living the life that I wanted to live. And I'm forced to go to chapel, and that's just really driving me nuts. I didn't want to hear victory in Jesus. I didn't want to hear power in the blood. I didn't want to hear any of those messages. And yet Rick Johnson, that's all he did. Played the organ and shared the message. And I remember hearing the gospel message for the first time. Now, I've been in chapel every Sunday and Wednesday. I heard the message. But this particular night, it was like I was the only one there. That I was the only one in the chapel. And that Brother Rick was preaching a message straight to me. And I remember him saying something really simple. If you want to get your life in order, you need Jesus. And I remember thinking to myself, is that true? Can Jesus really change my life? Is that really all that I need? And I remember going in and into the Parker House. It wasn't called Parker House then. But I remember going into the living room, and those words just kept playing over and over. Jesus is all you need. Jesus is all you need. So May 21st, 1996, I knock on Brother Rick's door, and I said, listen, I need to get saved. And he shared this plan of salvation. It was really simple. I'll never forget that peace and the tranquility I felt for the first time. It was as if God had just removed this burden that I'd been carrying for 8 years. Now, I got to tell you, it wasn't easy because my mom and dad, they still wanted to see the proof. I remember after I gave my life to Jesus, I called him. I was so excited, and my dad says, you've told us that before. You've told us that you were going to get your act in order, you were going to change, but you're still messing around. And so I have to prove to them that this was real. That Jesus changes a person's life from the inside out. That he can transform you and give you a new heart and place a new song in your mouth. And so I knew that after giving my life to Christ that I couldn't go back to Brooklyn. And so I prayed and I asked Brother Rick and a couple other guys, where do I go from here? I know I can't go home because if I do, I'll probably wind up using again. I'm going to hang out with the same crowd. I need something different. And so Brother Rick says, hey, well, why don't you try Word of Life Bible Institute? And really, I'll be honest with you, I just didn't want to go to New York, but something piqued my interest. As I was up there, somebody said, this is Word of Life Bible Institute, but in all reality, they call it Word of Life Bridal Institute. And I thought, here it is, I'm going to find my wife there. Well, I tell Brother Rick after this nice weekend over there at college, I said, that's the place I want to go. There were more girls than guys there. And so I said, that's it, that's where I'm going. But guess what? God had other plans, because for a whole year, didn't have a girlfriend. Studying the Word, falling in love with Jesus, getting a chance to hear and see some of the best teachers and professors ever. After graduating there, I realized, I want to commit my life to full-time ministry, but I don't know where to go. I'll never forget calling here the Rescue Mission. And anybody here in the Women's Auxiliary? I don't know if it was you ladies. I don't know if you were here when I was here. But I tell you what, I wanted to go to Liberty University, didn't have any money. And some of the ladies from the Women's Auxiliary helped me out with that first semester. And I thought, what a wonderful gesture. I'll never forget, I told Sherry, I had 2 jackets, a camel skin jacket and something, what was the color? Cinnamon? Oh, no, you can't, no, mauve. It was actually pink. It was given to me by Brother Rick, and I'm so grateful for that. Oh, it was mauve. Yeah. Oh, man. I tell you what, it was great. But I'll tell you what, it was the first jacket I ever had. He also, I don't know if he remembers this, he also gave me the first watch that I ever received. Thank you. There's a lot of firsts for me. After going to Liberty University, I met my wife, Sherry, and we just fell in love, and we have 2 beautiful children. But after finishing there, God called us to come here, so I worked for the Rescue Mission. I was the program director here, and I'll never forget our conversation with Dave and Jeanette Sanders. He said, Orvin, what would it take for you to come up here? I was telling Mike Dow, I told him I had no idea. I said, I'll throw out a figure there, and if he takes it, I'll go. I said, $24,000. He said, you're hired, come on up. But you know what? It was here at the Rescue Mission that I started seeing that God had a purpose and a plan for my life. There was something awesome about working here at the Rescue Mission and really seeing lives transformed. And so we were here, and we had our first child here, and we actually went to our first place where we lived. We toured that, and we drove by the hospital where Isabel was born. In fact, when we were here, the Yankees still had a farm club, not too far from here. And so we met at Liberty, we fell in love, we moved up here, and then God said, you know what, Orvin, there's something else that I have in store for you. I love rescue mission work. And God called us to go to Fort Worth, Texas, to go to seminary. And there God had opened the door for us to preach. 24 years old, preaching at a church, I had no idea what I was doing. But I remember Brother Rick said, just take the word and share it with the people. And that's all I did. That's all the reference. I had no idea that I was actually a pastor. We went there, and I went to preach to help somebody out, and they voted to call me as their pastor. I was shocked. I was shocked. I had no idea what to do. I said, Sherry, I think they're voting on us. What should we do? I don't know. We had no idea. Guess what? We were there. And God, after finishing there, God called us to another rescue mission. I was the assistant executive director in one in California, Visalia Rescue Mission. And God just tugged at my heart and kept working. And I really believe that where I am today is because of the people that invested in me 19 years ago. Every place that I've ever gone to, I always reference Utica. Because if it wasn't for the people and the staff and those that volunteer and give, I wouldn't be where I am today. I want you to mark down a date for me, October 22nd at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be defending my dissertation, and if I pass, they'll call me doctor. So supposedly after this question and answer time, once they call me back in, if they say Dr. Feliciano, I know that I've completed my course. But if they say Orvin, it's nice knowing you. didn't defend my dissertation well. But it started here. It started here at the Rescue Mission. I have a story that I just want to read to you, because I think it really is significant. You're all here and you don't know, maybe you don't know what to do with the rest of your life, or maybe you just don't know how to invest your life for the future. Maybe you're thinking that what you're doing now doesn't mean anything. Maybe you're just like Mr. Holland from Mr. Holland's Opus. It's a movie about a frustrated composer in Oregon who takes a job as a high school band teacher in the 1960s. Although diverted from his lifelong goal of achieving critical fame as a classical musician, he believes that this school job is just a temporary thing, something that he can do in the meantime and then write some famous concerto. As family demands increased, discovers that he has an infant son that's deaf, and the pressures of his job multiply, Mr. Holland recognized that his dream of leaving a lasting musical legacy was merely a dream. At the end of the movie, we find an aged Mr. Holland fighting in vain to keep his job now. The board has decided to reduce the operating budget by cutting the music and the drama program. No longer the reluctant band teacher, Mr. Holland believes in what he does, and he passionately defends the role of the arts in public education. What began as a career detour became a 35-year mission, pouring his heart into the lives of young people. Mr. Holland returns to his classroom to retrieve his belongings a few days after school lets out for summer vacation. He is taught his final class. With regrets and sorrow, he fills a box with artifacts that represent the tools of his trade and memories, many meaningful classes his wife and son arrive to give him a hand. As they leave the room, they walk down the hall. Mr. Holland hears some noise in the auditorium. Because school is out, he opens the doors to see what the commotion is, and to his amazement, he sees a capacity audience of former students and teaching colleagues and a banner that reads, "Goodbye, Mr. Holland." Those that attended greet him with a standing ovation while the band is playing songs that they learned from him. His wife, who was in on the surprise reception, approaches the podium and makes small talk until the master of the ceremonies, the governor of Oregon, arrives. The governor is none other than the student that Mr. Holland had helped to believe in herself his first year of teaching. As she addresses the room of well-wishers, she speaks for hundreds who filled the auditorium. Mr. Holland had a profound influence in my life, and a lot of other lives I know. And yet I get the feeling that he considers a great part of his life of misspent. Rumor has had it that he is always working on this symphony of his, and this is going to be his make himself famous rich scheme. But Mr. Holland isn't rich and he isn't famous, at least not outside our little town. So it might be easy for him to think of himself as a failure, but he's wrong. Because I think he achieved a success far beyond riches and fame. Looking at her former teacher, the governor gestures with a sweeping hand and continues to look around. There's not a life in this room that you've not touched. And each one of us is a better person because of you. But we are your symphony, Mr. Holland. We're your melodies and the notes of your opus. We're the music of your life. I wonder what the Rescue Mission, those founders, thought 125 years ago. There are many lives that have been helped, transformed by faithful men and women just like yourselves. Some of you will never get to know the names of the residents and the men and the women that you've helped, but you know what? The day you cross over, there are going to be rewards for many faithful servants. You might be like Mr. Holland this evening. And you're just wondering, did you really make a difference? I'll tell you what, if you've given to the Rescue Mission for 19 years, I know that you've made a difference in my life because of your faithful giving. I am what I am today because of you and I've invested in rescue mission work. Thank you.